The child has to lead the way, and
Right.
you can only follow suit, you can only do the inner work. And your child is here just to shine a very bright spotlight on all your dark areas. There has to be that balance between responsiveness and your demands. What the child needs versus what you offer. If there is a 80% balance, you're in a good space. You're safe. Let's work on the parent and let the parent find out what is it that urges on, that brings on a sense of ease into their life. What is it that makes you comfortable? What is it that helps you release? If crying in the shower makes you feel good, go ahead, do that. Whatever helps you release, do that. And then you share that energy with your child. And that's how the child grows. It's all to do with the parent.
We may see that sometimes a child may be going through a phase in where they feel low about themselves. They may feel that they are told to talk to their relatives and avoid them constantly. As parents, we want the best for our children, and the way we parent them is by keeping best more interest at heart for them. We may want to discipline them, make them strong hearted so that they build on themselves in their adult's life. You may wonder, should a parent be controlling or completely undemanding? How does it affect children when parents are cold and unresponsive or loving and receptive? Each parent style typically has different outcomes. Hi, I'm Urvashi Bisht, head psychologist at Hey and a practicing psychotherapist with more than 5 years of experience. Today, we will be talking about whether parenting style can impact self confidence in kids or not. For that, we have Mrs. Shivangi Maniar, who is an emotion, behavioral, and parenting coach. Her expertise lies in the area of child psychology, emotional regulation, and life skills. She has 10 plus years of experience, has extensively worked with children, teens, and parents. She's the co founder of a family centric platform, OTLO, which aims at recreating lines of communication between children, teens, and parents, helping families to become a cohesive unit. So happy to have you here, Shivangi.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
So maybe we'll start with some questions that we have received from our viewers, from our listeners, right? So since you work with teens, you work with parents extensively, we have formulated questions to understand how we can tackle and work around and guide our parents accordingly. So if I ask you, can you begin by explaining the type of parenting styles we come across?
Yeah. Uh, to a layman parent, this might seem like a lecture on parenting, but if we can detangle the way we have been brought up and the way we parent, we will find a resonance so strong in what I'm about to share with you next.
Mhm.
There are times when our parents seem to be unduly strict with us. There are times when we are not given a voice.
Right.
There are times when we are meant to be seen as children but not heard, kept on the sidelines. While a parent plows through, tells us what to say, what to think, how to behave, and we are only expected to follow through. That is typically an authoritarian parenting style. And I wouldn't be so quick to put it down as something bad.
Mhm.
Yet at the same time, there is a certain pressure which gets developed over a period of time in the relationship. The child feels unheard, and over a period of time, in order to please the parent, becomes more or less obedient without truly being in tune with their own feelings. It's a very sad space to be in. It's a very lonely space to be in. Moving on, then there is something called a permissive parent, which is something that I become when it is time, when I have a lot of work. It's like ice cream, yeah, fine, go ahead. Television, yeah, fine, go ahead. Just don't bother me.
Right.
And, but to be honest, for a parent, uh, this is unfortunately a way of life. There is so much of, or all right, we could begin by saying that a busy parent or an overworked parent does not have the bandwidth to sit down and listen and engage with a child. And yet, I would want to bring to light that it is generally the emotional confusion in a parent's head which does not allow him to reach out to the child the way the child wants that to happen. So I might be free, just tapping on my phone, but I'm not right now available, emotionally available to my child. And that's where I want to bring that flavor of neglectful parenting. The child feels lonely, uncared for, primarily because there is no feedback, there is no opinion, there is no engagement or communication. So it's like the child is in a silo all by himself. I can have Maggie while mom is at work and no one knows is the wiser.
Right.
Or I can use my brother's phone and check out Instagram without anyone knowing at home. There is no one to stop me, nobody to build any boundaries around me. I'm free. The parent generally stays in that space of happiness where he or she believes I just want whatever my child, whatever it takes to make my child happy. That's it.
Do anything.
As long as you're happy, whatever makes you happy, whatever works for you, and unknowingly destroys the child from within. Because boundaries make us feel very safe. They make us feel very comfortable. I still remember I was in grade 10 and the boards were looming large. And I remember going to my elder sister, she was 10 years my senior, and I said, listen, you've got to help me. And she just took over like a mother hen. And she sat me down and I said, okay, let's make a plan. And she said, nothing doing. Get me the subject that you are scared of the most. I had, that was like a no-brainer. I got my maths book and she said, start. I said, no plan, no calendar. You don't want to use my highlighters? And she says, no, get down to business. She built such strong boundaries around me. The only time I could take a break was 10 minutes of music right before nightfall. If I was supposed to study till 10 p.m., even an earthquake couldn't shake me out of that schedule. That was the level of control that she had. Yet at the same time, there was a lot of communication happening constantly. So much trust was built in the process that when I was in grade 12, I called her up again. She was abroad at the time. And I said, can you take over again? And she said, nothing, now it's your business. Right? So sometimes we want the parent to swoop in and take responsibility.
Right.
Then there is something which looks very ideal. That's the authoritarian style of parenting, where there's a lot of communication, there's democracy, there's peace in the world. It's probably the most authentic form of parenting. And while I would encourage every parent to be an authoritative parent, it is pure hard work. It is consistency. It is being mindful 24/7, 365 days a year. Because it requires a certain level of self-restraint and being in tune, being in touch with your own inner self to be able to be that backbone for the child. You want to have ice cream? I don't have an issue. But you need to have your dinner before you feed yourself any ice cream from the fridge. Rules, clear-cut rules, set in stone. But the entire process of setting rules, ensuring discipline, enforcing a schedule is very beautifully lubricated by communication, both ways, by open exchange of ideas. When you allow a child, say a 4 or 5-year-old, to challenge you, it can be very hard for certain parents to take. It's a direct attack on your ego. And how dare this little chimp talk back to me? But it is at this space that you're allowing your child the freedom to just be. And these children grow up with a very strong, clear sense of who am I, what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what is it that I want to follow, and which are the rules which I really don't care about. It's that inner clarity which sort of shines through. And you see such people taking very bold, emotionally stable decisions. This is where the seed of emotional brilliance is born. Having said that, again, I'll repeat, it's a lot of hard work. It's being very constantly looking into yourself, seeing where am I coming from right now. So if I have a board meeting the night before and I'm back home at 11 and at 5 my daughter wakes me up to say, Mummy, I haven't done my homework yet. I needed help. I was really scared. And at that time, to not burst into tears yourself or to fly off into a rageful monologue, it requires loads of emotional anchoring from within. And at that space, there might be times when you fall off the wagon. That's okay. But if in general, your child knows that I can come up and have a conversation and things might just work well, I think a parent's sorted.
So, Shivangi, you mentioned about, coming back to the question. So I would like to kind of summarize it. You mentioned about multiple parenting style here. I wanted to know that, do you think realistically it's possible for us to stick to one parenting style, or we keep switching as parents depending on the
Oh
situation?
my God. I would hope not, because to be an authoritative parent all the while is going to take a toll on my tasks. It's like this. We all have a task manager in our laptops.
Right.
And the task manager comes in and tells us that, okay, too many apps are open. So you've got to prioritize. And then we decide, okay, either it is a do, or it is a defer, or it is a delete, or it is a delay. Parenting cannot be your number one priority. You've got other things to do as well.
Right, right.
And therefore, we need to manage our energies accordingly. So if my child is sick right now, so my daughter, she was barely 3, and I still remember, I think I'm as gentle as a dove, but I took this nebulizer and I used to just pump it into her nose because that was the only thing that would allow her to breathe at that time. And I knew within minutes she's going to start feeling comfortable. She will stop fighting me. But at that time, had I been a very authoritarian parent, wishing to have a dialogue with her, wishing to open a conversation with her, she would have been in tears and very soon I would have followed suit. Yeah. So at that time, I have no option but to take on a role. Similarly, there are times when my elder one, since this is a parenting platform, I would want to be as open as I can be.
Absolutely.
The day she has her period, I am expected to be a very soft mom because that's what she needs at the moment. So, connection before correction. I need to connect with her in a specific way, make her feel loved, and then I can go ahead and have a conversation with her. So, there is this constant switching that you mentioned happens between roles, and that sort of your question, in fact, spotlights something very crucial, that it is very important to be mindful which cap am I wearing right now. And then you sort of give yourself the license to play that role beautifully. Then you can justify that, okay, it is important for me to scream because my daughter's hand is just too close to the stuff. So it's okay, it's justified. And that's how you can pat yourself on the back. Right? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. I think taking, no, absolutely you are, Shivangi. It's wonderful to know how you've put some examples from your personal life. So when we're talking as experts, things sounds very on surface level, right? We talk about, okay, these people keep talking about the right parenting style and it's theoretical and how do we make it happen? But I think you have tried to create a realistic picture that yes, you might have to change your ways, modify your parenting style at times. And also, it's interesting to know the kind of impact psychologically and physically, like emotionally, it can have on the child. What parenting style you're adapting with your child in their childhood, that's how your child is going to grow or become an adult and have certain emotional coping mechanism or how they are going to deal with situation. So definitely, I mean, it's good to know that you're trying to build a context and also tell us that realistically what's possible and what we need to do. So
very, very well said. And I would just like to say here, Urushi ji, that you mentioned right parenting. So the day I find the mantra, I will share it with the whole world for free. Okay.
So there is
मुझे
no
अभी
right
तक
way.
मिला.
So you mean to say there is no right way. There's only a
There's
way
no.
that the child accepts and
There
finds
is
for them.
absolutely very well said. That's the child has to lead the way, and
Right.
you can only follow suit. You can only do the inner work, and your child is here just to shine a very bright spotlight on all your dark areas. And you're supposed to work on it and juggle your work and parent and drop your child to PTA meetings and go crazy in the mean. But the whole idea is that, just like you mentioned, the child has to be okay with uh, there has to be that balance
Hmm.
between responsiveness and your demands, what the child needs versus what you offer. If there is a 80% balance, you're in a good space, you're safe.
Right. So, and what is the best way to approach a child if they're dealing with self-confidence issues? I know we as parents also sometimes play a role in resulting that in the child. If a child we notice has developed self-confidence issues, what is the best way a parent can deal with it?
Beautiful question. In fact, this is the number one query which most parents have.
Yeah.
And let me approach it in a way, the way I learned. So, confidence comes out of thin air. Confidence is never based on what you achieve in life, it comes from thin air. Now, what
Hmm.
do I mean by that? The way a child looks at himself or herself depends primarily on what the inner voice is telling him or her.
Yeah.
And who is the one person the child trusts, looks up to, literally looks up to, is the parent.
Right.
So if I tell my child, um, this looks like hard work, you finished 10 sums, and I know there was a movie playing in the background, but you sort of stuck to your job. I like that in you.
Hmm.
This creates such a positive regard for the self in the child that it sort of stays on long after she's gotten the marks for that assignment, right? I still remember my 7-year-old had gotten specs.
Hmm.
And I remember we were walking down to the bus stop, and she says, "How do I look?" And she had the specs on, and I look at her and I said, "Oh, you look so smart. You're ready for school. You're ready to learn. You're going to make an impact today." And then she removed her glasses and she said, "Okay, now how do I look?" I said, "You look so warm and approachable. I feel like I'm talking to a friend right now."
Hmm.
It is that space of uh, comfort that you give to a child which builds their confidence.
Right.
If I can relate it to these parenting styles, a few bumps down the road, the child is able to regulate.
Right.
But if I could share an incident with you, this one 25-year-old person, adult, has ended up doing a degree course in architecture just because the father demanded so.
Hmm.
The father, being an authoritarian parent, made it very clear that financial support shall be given to the child only if they follow the course which the father wishes. The adult is broken right now, and it will take months of therapy for him to first accept himself, forgive the father, and move on. That's when life begins, truly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With an authoritative parent, a child can sense that there are rules. I can play within those rules, but if I have to cross any boundaries, I need to communicate. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to slow down, step back. Yet at the same time, it is important to keep moving. Why? Because there's this constant energetic pulse from the parent, which says, subliminally, which says, "I believe in you. I trust you to take the right decision."
Hmm.
Yeah. Again, in neglectful parenting, the child is isolated. There is no feedback. There's no stimulus from the environment. So it's like I, me, myself, and that's my world.
Hmm.
And therefore, I am as undefined in what I want, what I need from the world. If you ask such a child, what is going to make you happy? What do you need? I don't know. And that's such a heavy space to be in. To not know what makes you happy,
Yeah.
it's a hard space for a child. So that's how confidence comes in. You ask me how to build confidence in a child. I'll tell you, leave the child aside. Let's work on the parent and let the parent find out what is it that urges on, that brings on a sense of ease into their life. What is it that makes you comfortable? What is it that helps you release? If crying in the shower makes you feel good, go ahead, do that. If swinging a few steps before your meeting puts you in that high, do that. Whatever helps you release, do that, and then you share that energy with your child, and that's how the child grows. It's all to do with the parent. Sara homework belongs to the parent. So.
The kind of, I think with this conversation, the kind of pressure that is also building on the parents to be a certain way. Don't want to do that, definitely, for the parents listening to our podcast today. But something that I'm picking up, so with your information, you've already covered responses to a lot of our questions that we had formulated, Shivangi. But I also wanted to kind of highlight one point that I took back from your conversation, that how you talk to the child becomes the child's inner voice when they grow up. So, be careful about what you say. As you highlighted, mindfulness is important. Whatever I am saying, whatever I'm engaging in, it has to be comforting. It has to be not always kind or right, but it has to be what the child takes back and what makes them feel good about themselves in that situation, whether it's a learning, whether it's an emotional reaction that they picked up, or whether it's something that they just took back that will help them probably face another person if they face criticism in their life. So I think
Beautiful.
that sounds like wonderful note, Shivangi, to conclude this conversation on today. A lot to learn from you. I think we've just touched a very small aspect of parenting, but with your knowledge and experience, personal as well as professional, I think we have a lot to cover in parenting. We'll connect
Thank you.
again to talk more about parenting with you then. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.